Hello, friends. It's Chapo.
Not brutally owned.
Ladies and gentlemen, eminent author, literary critic, and bad boy Christopher Hitchens is in the house, is in the hell. All right. So, like I said, next up, we have a man who is probably perhaps more surprised than anyone to find himself in hell. Author, literary critic, Christopher Hitchens. Christopher, how's it going?
Well, despite that rather supercilious and facile introduction, I am somewhat vexed to report that my situation has been rather unpleasant as of late.
When you agreed to do the interview, we reached out to Pascal about his wager and the fact that you lost the wager, and we asked him for comment, and he just replied to our email with the abbreviation for laughing my ass off.
My reply to Pascal, as it is to you, is the same as it would be eternally, during a mortal life on Earth or otherwise, is that the wager cannot be lost any more than it could be said that if Sir David Hume had lost on points, billiard game after billiard game after billiard game after billiard game, that one could say that the game did not exist. The proof of a scientifically known, organic, and therefore mortal nature of life itself, and therefore a godless atheist reality of the universe we inhabit, is not only conclusively proven in my books, but also conclusively settled in debate by my appearances on CNN and MSNBC and parties hosted by Graydon Carter. I do not accept. I do not accept that my current predicament, as difficult as it may be, is what you would term to be a sentence to everlasting torture in hell. That is a fantasy for school children and obese Baptists. I maintain. I maintain, and I do urge myself to continue. I do urge myself to continue this very, very important point. I do maintain that although I am put under extreme duress on a daily, nay, hourly basis, and that there are flames surrounding me in every direction, I maintain that it is merely a hallucination of the pineal gland, that I am still inhabiting a hospital bed and suffering from esophageal cancer, and that I am merely in the throes, the final moments of an organic creature's last breaths on this earth. I believe that I am merely rehearsing a debate in my own head at the conclusion of a lifetime, as one would in the shower or at any other time of one's existence.
So I mean, like this is sort of inspirational because we're here interviewing you in hell. I am not in hell. I am not in hell. I refuse to. Okay, I refuse to concede the point. Like I said, that's inspirational. You're sticking to your guns here on the atheism kick. So I mean, like, any comments about the non-existence of God and the non-existence of hell that you'd like?
Although one would look around and understand. One would look around, and if one were not if one had not matched wits with George Galloway and other worthy opponents in the arts of letters and sciences, if one's mind had not been honed with the knives of Vanity Fair, one might allow one to be seduced by the persuasion that you are surrounded by a Mephistophelian torture that may last for a number of thousands of years or an eternity from the scale of a human lifetime. However, understand. Along with thousands of superior minds dating back to so far, understand that what I am experiencing is nothing short of my own mental mindscape. Even do not interrupt me. Even though I am subjected on a 24-hour basis to a severe waterboarding, one could call it a waterboarding. I'm subjected to a waterboarding with the collected semen of Evelyn Waugh. Even though
there's a lot of jizz here.
It is set on fire. It is mixed with gasoline. It is the flaming cum of Evelyn Waugh. Even though I'm subjected to this on a 24-hour basis, I refuse to admit that what I am enduring is any sort of punishment from any sort of deity. If it were, it would conclusively prove that that deity were of a lower mental capacity than the victim of his punishments. Even though I have been subjected to a trial where Aristophanes himself appeared, borrowing from the plot of his own play, The Frogs, appeared and held a trial for two deceased poets, of which should rise from Hades to rescue Athens in his moment of greatest in her moment of greatest difficulty, where a trial was held, comparing the letters of I, Christopher Hitchens, with those of Tom Wolfe. And though it was presented to me as if I lost the competition, and the coax of the Frogs of Aristophanes took Tom Wolfe back up to the living world, I understand it to all be fictional. Answer me this. Have you seen a resurrection? Have you seen a resurrection or a reincarnation of a Tom Wolfe? I take your silence as confirmation that it is a bonfire not only of his vanities, but a bonfire of the concept of reincarnation itself as well. I am being... I do not consent. I do not consent. My mind is free. I will not submit. I will not submit to this display of Islamofascism. And although in moments like this there are clearly weeping and gnashing of teeth, I refuse. I refuse to recognize that I am not being given one final interview, one final unnecessary interview with myself on my deathbed, which seems to have lasted now at least 12 years.
So yeah, I'm hearing no regrets as you experience this temporary natural phenomenon of DMT hitting your brain and recreating a very, very lifelike fantasy of you being tortured for the things you said and did while you were alive. As you wait the final nothingness of complete actual death, which is nothingness for eternity. You're standing strong and no regrets, but is there anything you wish you could have done more while you were alive?
I only wish that I could have impressed with a greater sense of conviction and justice, my superior sense of humor on the female. I only regret that my persistent flop sweat, stinking of gin, was not personally shared but with Christiane Amanpour, but was done so over a satellite link connection.
Obviously there's the Iraq War, there's torture, there's spreading the gospel of new atheism. You did also refer to Mother Teresa as, quote, an Albanian midget. Come on. Is there any regrets for that alone? You think maybe this is why your DMT death trip is the way it is because of the Mother Teresa stuff?
Maybe it could have been more fun. Maybe this could be more of an enjoyable experience here. Maybe a reconciliation, with loved ones.
I look around plainly to answer your point. To answer your query, I look around here in this erstwhile hellscape, and I do not see Mother Teresa. I do not see the Albanian whore. My eyes are clearly open. I perceive myself blink. I blink, therefore I argue. I look around quite clearly and I see no Mother Teresa. And we all know, in any honest intellectual analysis, you would know that if this were an eternal damnation, that Mother Teresa would be here, along with every other Christian saint canonized by the Catholic Church. I see them not. Therefore, this cannot be hell. QED.
What about other religious figures that you've lambasted in the past? Are you seeing them now in this sort of fantasy created by your own mind before the eternal void of nothingness? Anyone you're happy to see joining you in this Baroque fantasy of your own torment?
One would think what I see familiar faces. I see familiar faces that remind me of the combative newsrooms of London and New York. I see people that I would have seen in a party at Vanity Fair. I see very clearly, obviously what has happened is that there is a vigil around my hospital bed. And I'm being fed gin and galwal. And what has been experienced here is nothing. And I damn them. I tell them not to comfort the dying in his final moment. I have a piece that will be debuting soon in the New Yorker called Against Comfort.
I gotta ask. So, you've had many epic battles with Gore Vidal. Has Gore showed up in this fantasy of torment?
Gore Vidal has not shown up in this fantasy any more than he otherwise would in my daily fantasizing of debating with him. I see him not. You Tennessean fool. To quote a celebrated review of one of his final and least impressive works, Palimpsest. I would say again regarding Mr. Vidal that he is fat, he is obese, his mind is aged. His mind, as his arguments are aged, he is, if not a willing tool, then certainly a fellow traveler and a useful idiot for not only Saddam Hussein but the Ba'ath movement across the Levant and Southwest Asia. Who among us could have predicted that the aristocrats of the Tennessee Valley Authority would become the water carriers, so to speak, for the Ba'ath movement? Indeed, the Ba'ath has reached from the Tigris and Euphrates to the Columbia and Tennessee rivers.
Any other former collaborators like Donald Rumsfeld? I mean, you work closely with him on the whole Iraq war thing.
Rumsfeld, I see daily Rumsfeld. He is next to me in the hospital. He is comforting me in my dying moments. I see, yes, and he screams. He screams constantly because he cannot imagine living on without me in the world, beset by the radical left and the fundamentalist right. He screams of torment, knowing that a world without Hitchens is a world dimmer by far. I do not subscribe to the fantasy that his torment is supernatural in any way. This is conclusively proven.
Now, what about is Saddam there? You were going to answer that one. Have you seen Saddam?
Indeed, I have seen Saddam. Indeed, I have, and I understand what I believe to be more plausible than that he and I have been placed adjacent to each other in everlasting torment. What I believe to be more plausible, and which therefore cannot be argued by any serious debate, is that Saddam Hussein himself was not executed in Baghdad, that it was not his neck that we saw snapped like a chicken, that in fact it was one of his body doubles. And this is altogether more plausible. And that Saddam himself was brought to my hotel room to thank me for removing him from power as a mea culpa, ironically, as it were, a Paul on the road to Damascus scenario. That Saddam himself has bent the knee in the final moments of Hitchens' walk upon the earth. I do not forgive him. I do not forgive him. In fact, I do not forgive him, and I gleefully taunt him at the securement of the Iraqi gold reserves by George Clooney and Ice Cube.
Well, Mr. Hitchens, I mean, it was great. It was great to talk to you again. I mean, our world has been sorely missing your voice as as you transition into eternal nothingness on your hospital bed. As this dream continues, the dream here for Matt and I, for the rest of
spiritless, cold and kinetic eternity. I must demand that you concede an eternity that is cold and kinetic. It involves no more than the occasional no more life than the occasional electron.
And as far as our world is concerned, it has been. It's felt like hell for me because there's been a severe lack of Christopher Hitchens debates and TV appearances on.
This is the part where the nurses. This is the part where the nurses insert my own pin as a catheter. I refuse this treatment. A fountain pen used to write my most piercing works. God, fuck the cunt of God.
Well, Mr. Hitchens, like I said, my closing thought, it's felt like hell on earth for me these past years because there have been precious few and indeed none. There have been no Christopher Hitchens appearances on Real Time with Bill Maher, and that's felt like hell. That's felt like hell to me.
What a loss! We have all felt it. We have just imagined all of the new rules you could have shared.
If this were hell, if I were in hell, would I not see Bill Maher? Proof unto you.
Case closed.
The case is not closed. I disagree with you on that. The case must forever be argued. More important in the human experience than being right is to be combative. This has been known since the pre-Socratics. This has been clear to those of free minds since Marcus Aurelius. The human mind is not of purpose unless it is put to use in the action of humiliating the females and advocating for a war, after which none will achieve their Valhalla, and none will be condemned through their below.
Well, Mr. Hitchens, like I said, it's great to know that there's a part of you that still exists somewhere out there, fighting the good fight against God, against religious belief, and against Islamofascism.
I look out very clearly. I see across a curtain of flames, and I see an eternal cloud of smoke rising from the curtain, from the shadow of the flames, and in the distance I see Orpheus attempting to carry his beloved up to the top. Up to the peak of Hades, where it returns to the immortal world. And I understand this to be a pageant. I understand this to be a pageant that Ariana Huffington has organized on my behalf around my abode of convalescence. And I reject it. I reject it on theatrical grounds, and I reject it. I reject it as something attempting to convince me of some sort of pagan afterlife, which I reject also as handily as did Plato.
Mr. Hitchens, I really want to thank you for your time. God is not great, but talking to Christopher Hitchens, you got no complaints. You got no complaints there.
I will add this: there is no dismount that I will allow you to do without further objecting to the points, the very important points that are raised, because they must be deflated. There is no elegant way. I will not concede the floor. In fact, I will tell you, I am here to plug my latest work. My latest work is a thorough debunking of Aesop and his fables. It has come to light that the fables themselves must not be taught to our children, because they involve not only supernatural but lessons which are of a clearly satirical view, and we must not indoctrinate our children, whether they be our young or our children who are of advanced age and in positions of power. They must not submit to the tortoise nor to the hare, to the scorpion and to the frog. I stand astride their path across the river, and I say, sting not and swim not. Neither one is real.
Animals don't talk.
Coax! I beg you, make it end!
Christopher Hitchens, ladies and gentlemen.
Folks, we love him, don't we?
Yeah.
Not God! I will never beg to God!
Wow, hell, what a place. But I have to say, nice to visit. I don't think I want to live here.
It wasn't as bad as people said it was.
Certainly not. No, people get way overboard. It's like, it's fine. But you just imagine over time, it would get on your nerves, It's that kind of thing.
It's an experience I think everyone should have at least once in their life.
Right. Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. You got to check it out. It's like seeing Paris or Houston for that matter.
But yeah, no, Satan is real.
He's real. He's working his power. He's a little twisted and he's a little sick.
We can see him and feel him in this world every day.
Every single day.